In the summer of 2018, 6 strangers gathered at a remote cabin, nestled near the edge of the Appalachian Trail. They were brought together by a small research group, each one carrying a secret they couldn't explain. They had all seen something in the woods, something that defied logic. But what they didn't know was that by sharing their stories, they were sealing their fate. First, there was Mark, a seasoned hunter. Years ago, near Mount St. Helens, something circled his camp at night. He heard slow, deliberate footsteps, then smelled rot and wet dog. When he aimed his flashlight into the darkness, 2 amber eyes stared back, a terrifying 7 feet off the ground. But the worst part, the part he never told anyone, was when it mimicked his voice calling out "hello" in his exact tone. Elena, a solo backpacker, had her encounter in the Great Smoky Mountains. She found massive footprints pressed deep into the mud, longer than her forearm. That night, her campsite was bombarded with rocks, thrown with a chilling precision. One landed just inches from her head. When she screamed, something screamed back deeper, angrier, and much, much closer. Then there was Thomas, the skeptic. He was filming a documentary to debunk Bigfoot myths in Bluff Creek, the very site of the famous Patterson-Gimlin film. He was laughing about the local legends when the tree knocking started. 3 knocks, a pause, then 3 knocks back. He even demonstrated it for the group. The woods answered instantly, right behind him. Renee was a park ranger in Olympic National Park. She'd seen it all, or so she thought. One foggy morning, she saw a massive, upright figure standing perfectly still in a clearing, just watching her through her binoculars. She radioed for backup, and in the split second she looked down, it was gone, vanished without a sound. That night, something walked slow circles around her station, methodically testing the doors. Luis, a former soldier, was on a wilderness survival exercise when his entire squad's perimeter alarms went off. Trees had been pushed over, not cut down. A younger soldier swore he saw a giant hairy man watching from the pines. Luis dismissed it until he found huge handprints on his truck the next morning, far too large and way too high up for any man. And finally, Hannah. She grew up with local stories of an ancient, territorial creature. She never believed them. Not until her dog refused to leave the porch one night and the entire forest fell silent. Then she saw it step out from the tree-lined broad shoulders, dark fur, its eyes reflecting the moonlight. It wasn't just watching her, it was watching the cabin. After all 6 had shared their terrifying tales, a heavy silence fell over the room. That's when it happened. 3 sharp raps on the cabin wall. They froze. Another knock from the opposite side. Then another and another, circling them. The suffocating smell of rot filled the air. Mark whispered, "It followed me." Suddenly the power cut out, plunging them into darkness. Heavy footsteps pounded on the porch outside. Something scraped against the wood. A window rattled violently. And then a voice called from the darkness, Elena. It was her name, spoken with perfect clarity. Her blood ran cold. "It said my name too," she whispered, her voice trembling. The door handle began to turn, slowly, once, twice, and then, from every direction at once, came the sound that had haunted them all. 3 knocks. When the sun rose hours later, it revealed a silent, empty forest. The cabin door hung open. Inside, a table was overturned, and deep gouges scarred the floorboards. There were no bodies. There were only 6 sets of footprints leading away from the cabin and into the trees. And alongside them, a single, much larger set of tracks. The first thing you notice in the forest at night isn't a sound. It's the silence, not the peaceful kind. Not the soft hush of wind through pine needles. 3 of us had driven deep into the backcountry just outside Olympic National Park. No service. No other campers. Just miles of wet earth, towering spruce, and fog that clung to the trees like cobwebs. It was supposed to be a weekend trip. Ryan brought the beer. Marcus brought his camera gear. He was obsessed with filming evidence. And I brought the maps. And the rifle. Not because I believed in Bigfoot, but because Ryan did. He'd been talking about it for months, stories about sightings in the Pacific Northwest, Grainy footage, massive footprints. He said if there was anywhere in the country you'd see one, it was here. By the time the sun went down, the fog had thickened. Our fire snapped and popped, but the woods beyond the light looked solid like a wall of black stone. That's when we heard the first knock. It was distant, hollow, wood on wood, probably a branch falling. Then it came again. 2 knocks this time. He didn't smile. He didn't blink. "That's not random," he whispered. I rolled my eyes, but something about it crawled under my skin. The rhythm felt deliberate, like a signal. Then the forest went completely silent. No crickets. If someone's messing with us, I'm getting it on film. He stepped just outside the ring of firelight. That was when something moved between the trees. At first, it looked like a shadow separating from other shadows. Then it straightened, and kept straightening. It had to be at least 8 feet tall, broad, massive shoulders, long arms hanging too low. The silhouette wasn't human, not quite, wrong in its proportions. Ryan's breathing turned sharp and fast. The thing didn't step forward. Then it took 1 step into a shaft of pale moonlight. Dark, matted hair covering its entire body. Its chest was wide and scarred, its head slightly conical. And its eyes, God. Its eyes reflected the firelight, but not like an animal's. There was depth there. Awareness. Marcus whispered, "Oh my God! Oh my God!" The camera trembled in his hands. The creature opened its mouth. It didn't roar. And the sound that came out was low, guttural, almost human. Like a growl forced through a throat not built for speech. Ryan dropped his beer bottle. That's when the thing moved. It didn't charge. 1 step at a time, staying just beyond the firelight. We could hear its feet crushing branches. Heavy, measured. It was hurting us. Marcus backed toward the truck. The creature stopped moving. Then, from behind us deeper in the woods, another knock echoed. "There's more than one," I said. Ryan shook his head slowly, eyes wide. "They hunt in family groups." Something screamed in the distance. It wasn't a wolf. It wasn't a cougar. It sounded like a woman being attacked. Marcus broke. He bolted straight toward the truck, fumbling for the door handle. The sound it made as it moved, branches snapping, earth tearing under its weight, was unreal. Marcus screamed once. Just once. Then silence. Ryan grabbed my arm. "Don't move." We could hear breathing now. Not ours. I raised the rifle, hands shaking so hard I could barely aim. The fire flickered low. And then it stepped back into the light. Its mouth was smeared dark. Its eyes locked onto mine. There was no rage in them. It tilted its head slightly, as if trying to understand me. From behind it, 2 smaller shapes emerged between the trees. Juveniles. The big one let out a soft, rumbling call. The shapes behind it shifted. Ryan whispered, "It's showing them." The realization hit me like ice water. We weren't prey. We were a lesson. The creature reached down into the darkness beside it and dragged something forward. Marcus's camera fell into the firelight. Still recording. The creature didn't need to show us the rest. It didn't need to. It took 1 slow step toward the fire. I fired. The shot exploded through the forest. The creature flinched, not from pain, but from surprise. It looked down at its shoulder, and then it looked back at me. The expression changed. No more curiosity. Now there was anger. It roared. The juveniles answered from the trees. Ryan ran. I don't know where. The big one charged. I fired again. Missed. It hit me like a truck. The last thing I remember clearly is the smell. Rot, wet fur, iron. I woke up at dawn. The fire was ash. The campsite was destroyed. The truck was gone. No bodies. No footprints. Just the camera, sitting upright on a log. Pointed at me. When I checked the footage later, it showed everything. The knocks. The shape. Marcus running. But when the creature lunged, the frame distorted. Static. Then, just before it cuts out, the lens focuses. Close. Too close. On a single eye. Watching. And just before the video ends, there's a sound. Not a roar. Not a growl. A whisper. Almost human. Go. I left that morning. I never went back to Olympic National Park. But sometimes late at night when the world goes quiet, I hear the knocking, 2 slow knocks, and I can't help but wonder if it let me live or if it's still teaching. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like and subscribe for more.